Autism. Autism is something that is not understood, sometimes misunderstood, often disregarded. It is one of the disorders among children or people that we don't give a lot of attention. And just like we've been discussing, people living with albinism, the challenges that people living with autism face are similar, and there is need for concerted effort to address those particular concerns. Joining me on Kickstarter this morning is Madame Dorothy Nambi. You're the Executive Director at the Donor Center for Autism. Many thanks for joining us. A very good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
Let's just go straight into the discussion. What is autism?
Wow. So autism is a lifelong developmental disorder that affects children or people in different ways.
That's right.
It affects our communication. Some people are totally non-verbal. Some are partially verbal. Then the way we relate with the society, we do relate in different ways. And the behavior is also different. And it varies from severity to mild. We are seeing so many famous people on the spectrum, but we have an attitude yet in our society.
Okay. You speak about you're seeing so many famous people on the spectrum. Could you explain that?
Wow. So when I talk of the famous people, like we have had the biggest example as Bill Gates being on the spectrum. But I think of recent, it's like so many scientists are on the spectrum.
On the spectrum. I must admit, I'm not understanding. What is the spectrum? What is the autism spectrum disorder? When you say Bill Gates is on the spectrum, what do you mean? Is he living with autism? Is he a campaigner for people living with autism? Give us some detail.
Wow. So what I mean by being on the spectrum, I would say me and you, we are on the spectrum. How do you relate to people?
Okay.
What are your behaviors?
That's right.
How do you communicate? We have different likes and dislikes. How do you behave when you're hungry? How does the other person behave when he or she is hungry?
Wow. I sometimes get a little disturbed.
Exactly. So you find someone with the spectrum who will just maybe kind of like have some kind of like an action if food is not yet served, or if they can go and access it, they will just go pick it. And then you're like, this person is mad.
Okay. Now that's eye-opening. Does that mean we should pay more attention on how people react to certain situations, because it could be a window into whether they are grappling with autism or not?
We normally say never judge a book by its cover, but we need to always kind of watch before we kind of say maybe. Maybe. Exactly.
All right, you will take us through the symptoms. Okay. On average. How do I identify, especially a young child? I always refer to young children because most of us are into family settings where you could have a child who presents with some symptoms of conditions or diseases, but because you do not have information, you cannot actually quickly figure out what is happening. And one of the greatest failures or losses, the battles you fight as a parent, is when you're unable to quickly identify your child's problem. How do these symptoms present? But before you do that, in Luganda, I must be very specific, and of course it's English programming, but autism must be understood the way we need to understand it in tackling this particular issue. Chechi mu Luganda.
Mu Luganda olufuutifuuti autism mbeera embeera etaataganya omuntu mu bintu ebimu engeri gy'abikolamu. Omuntu ono ayinza okuba nga tasobola kwogera ng'alina ky'ayagala, ajja kukwata ku mukono akutwale ku ky'ayagala. Olumu bw'aba alina ky'ayagala nga tasobola kwogera, olumu yeekalakaasa, tukuyita okwekalakaasa. Naye nga kwegamba olaba mu mbeera eyo nga olina kyoyagala naye tosobola kukyogera.
All right. I think we have an idea of exactly what autism is. This is a condition that could perhaps be ongoing within the home, where there is a bit of irritation in people's reaction into the things they want. For example, a child wants something, but they are either not communicating well, and in the process, they either hold your hand, drag you to where that particular thing is, and they say, Daddy, Mommy, this is what I want. Exactly. The reason I wanted it to be explained in Uganda is for it to completely be understood. Exactly. No doubt. It wasn't a case of diverting our language there. So what are the symptoms of autism?
Okay, so before, I would really like to say, before we get into the symptoms, we need to look into the developmental milestones.
Okay.
When a child comes to this planet, what happens? We have the different stages someone has to go through.
That's right.
A child has to go through. From the word go, the mother gives birth, and we're like, 1 week, you've seen them trying to do this. Is my child able to see?
Able to see.
That's why you move the hand like this. Is someone going to go like this or this side? Facial communication. Is this child able to signal? Like, I'm moving this side, you're moving this side. Is there eye contact? So when the developmental milestones have something not right, there is a question mark. And when they manifest, then we are going to see the different signs. Of course, not all signs will indicate your child has autism.
Yeah, there's
some could be like a peepee. There could be indicators.
Like a stubborn character developing.
Exactly.
Okay.
But then we are like, okay, when you watch something like, my child is always in the corner, my child doesn't want to associate with other people, my child's eye contact is not that of an ordinary child, my child's hearing is not of an ordinary child. Why would I say of an ordinary child? But now this comes to someone who hasn't had a child before.
That's right.
What should happen? Seek for some guidance. You know, the internet is there, but what are we doing on, what are we using it for?
That's right.
There is a lot of information. Try to find out, at this period, what must my child be going through? If this doesn't happen, put a question mark. Seek for support. Don't wait. That maybe in our family, people delay. Someone may delay, and delay, and delay. But if you kind of like come in earlier, it's like a plant.
That's right.
If you kind of support it when it's still at that tender age, it will come out the right way.
That's right. Now, for the individual out there who might not be an expert or privy to some of the information that you need to know. For example, at the age of 11 months, a child is able to demonstrate that they are beginning to walk.
Exactly.
Okay, some of them, luckily enough, walk properly. Others are demonstrating they're able to walk. Now, at 11 months, if a child is unable to do that, it is something you should pay attention to. There's already a question.
Something is not right. Maybe this baby is being carried all the time. And not supported with the mobility too. Because we in Uganda we had that song. You know, you're motivating someone from some level to now to another level. When the child walks, you're like, wow, one step, second step, third step, you praise.
The same applies rather to ability to begin to speak out.
Exactly.
Say, Daddy,
because we have to motivate.
Mommy, if they are not doing that, you have to pay attention.
And the challenge is, we think it's automatic that the child will talk. If you don't motivate, it is no longer automatic.
Okay. So, in other words, is it it's not genetic, it's not a genetic disorder, environmental, more to speak.
Is still going on.
Because if you say you can motivate a child to do something, and another parent, by not doing those things that motivate one to grow, is effectively letting the child slide into autism.
Exactly.
Okay, so that means it's largely environmental.
Exactly, and somehow maybe the parents end up leading this to. Because if you don't have the time for this child, you're leaving the child in the hands of a caretaker. The caretaker also has some work to do. We've seen them leave them to mind your business. Mind your business. There is TV on. This child is going to watch cartoon the whole day. And that is it. Sometimes they're even developing eye issues because they are keeping on TV 24 hours. Oh my God. You've hinted about the fact that some of the things that happen, or rather entrench autism as a result of what we do not do as people living around these particular people. But
are there particular persons who are susceptible to autism than others? Is there any biological, geographical, demographic dynamic to that?
Well, I think with that I would kind of say, let's not really maybe imagine it is, but let us focus on like how can we support
How
this?
can we support?
How the moment you see something is not right, we need to leave other factors behind, because some generations we need to we did not see.
Okay.
Others maybe we have seen, so we can't really cope.
Yeah, of course, there's a lot more information for this generation than the past in how to tackle some of those issues. But in case a child has presented with some of the symptoms of autism, how is a parent, how is a guardian, a caretaker supposed to go about it?
So as we saw that maybe something hasn't gone right, this parent needs to quickly go meet maybe a pediatrician. We have a neurologist. We have donor center home for autism, where people can come and seek for some guidance and counseling and see how to support this before it manifests
seriously. Okay, your parting shots on how best the sector players across board can be able to address this particular challenge within our community. How bad is it? Do we have a case of too many children suffering from autism, or even older persons themselves?
So I would really say, I was just talking to my colleagues who just previously left that when I was doing my course in Chambogo University, there was a small tiny word, autism, as a communication disorder. But how tiny it was is now the opposite.
Is now the opposite.
It is a very big problem.
No doubt.
It's a very big problem that when you people give us an audience, we really need to expound more. We really need to share more, maybe to the teenage mothers, because it starts from the time this lady is planning to conceive. Okay.
Madam Dorothy Nambi, the Executive Director at the Donor Center for Autism, many thanks for the insight and the information that you have shared on how it presents, but most importantly, what should be done to ensure that the spectre of autism is rectified within the communities. Thank you very much. And there you have it. It's a condition that a child might grow into as you watch on a daily basis. So the takeaway there is pay attention to how your child reacts to the things around them. They could be communicating something very integral to their life and their condition. It is your role as a parent, a caretaker, and a guardian to ensure that is okay. Time now for a break. I know